from Franchising Company back with another great franchise interview this week on our ZorZoom series. Today, we're going to be talking to Tippi Toes and uncovering some good information that you can't just Google. Before we start, just want to let you know you can find great interviews like this one in the Find a Franchise section of our website or on YouTube. All of the socials are at the Franchising Company. So anyway, let's do it. Our guest today is Dana with Tippi Toes. And in full disclosure, Matt and I were paying customers of Tippi Toes when our daughter was younger. We loved it and we can't wait to share the story.
So Dana, to start, do you mind just sharing a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into the story of Tippi Toes?
Absolutely. And first, thanks for having me today, guys. It's, always a pleasure to do this, and I'm excited to be here. But so I am the director of franchise development for Tippi Toes. I work for Franchise FastLane, so I am supporting Tippi Toes, and I could not be more honored to be the director for this brand. There was an immediate connection between myself and the founder, and then their entire corporate team and their co-owner. It was just an instant connection. And it's because they are genuinely just great people. So not too long after I became the director of Tippi Toes, I decided to also become a franchise owner. So I purchased one territory of Tippi Toes in November in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm originally from. And as of last night, I purchased 2 more territories, actually.
Congrats.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Signed and sealed and delivered yesterday, but I actually purchased those ones down in Florida, in like the Palm Beach Gardens area. That's where I live now. So I'm really excited to expand even more with Tippi Toes and continue growing the brand and just see where it takes us over the next couple of years.
So how did Tippi Toes come to be? What exactly is the concept? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so the way that it came to be is actually a really fun, long story, but it happened on accident 25 years ago. Sarah Noose, who is the Tippi Toes founder, always was kind of like teaching kids dance growing up, like in her front yard of her house. And in college, Sarah had a car payment that she needed to make. Well, she ended up getting like fired from her job. Long story short, ended up getting fired from her job, and her parents gave her really valuable teaching moments as parents or parenting advice, and said, well, because she went to them like, can you help me make my car payment? I just got fired. And because she went to a Notre Dame football game. And so her parents were like, no, like you need to be a responsible adult. And so her mom gave her a really good idea and said, Sarah, you've always like loved teaching dance, so why don't you maybe try doing that? So Sarah just started going to different like daycares and schools in her area where she was at school, and started teaching classes to kids at the daycares. And it just really started to snowball effect and grow and grow and grow. And then her sister came on board and saw to see if it was potentially easily able to replicate in other markets. And they did just naturally, like, oh, let's bring it here. Let's do it here. And as they kind of moved around, they just started opening them up in different cities. And now, because Sarah's husband moves a lot for work, so she was just opening them in different cities. And then before they knew it, they had other people asking if they could do it. And so in 2009, they decided to bring on their first franchise owner. And so up until this last year when they came on with FastLane, all of their growth and development just happened organically. It was very much like dance instructors turned managers turned franchise owner, or parents who had their kids taking classes, for example, became franchise owners. So very much organic growth. And then they realized in order to really, if they wanted to kick it up a notch, that is not their expertise. Their expertise is Tippi Toes. So that's why they brought on Franchise FastLane.
And well, I was gonna say, weren't they featured on Shark Tank at one point too? Do I remember
Yes,
that
they
right?
were in 2012. I believe it was the second season, but it was Mark Cuban's first season. And they struck a deal with Mark Cuban. And off TV, they decided to not move forward with it. Even though he offered them a deal. His intent was to really, go full force selling franchises. And the contract was a little scary for them, and they decided to tell him they didn't want to move forward because they really wanted to make sure, like, they cultivated this beautiful culture within Tippy Toes, and they wanted to make sure that they maintained that and that they were able to support their franchise owners. At the time, it was just Sarah and her sister, and they were able to support the franchise owners that they had, but could they support that growth? And it was a question mark for them, and they wanted to make sure they were bringing on the right people, because otherwise, they didn't know if it would be a forever thing for them if they didn't. So they decided not to move forward. But yeah, Mark Cuban, they struck a deal with Mark Cuban, and their husbands thought it was like the
Not very
coolest.
many people can say they had an offer from Mark Cuban, so
No.
that's pretty awesome.
I know, and their husbands were like, "You're gonna tell him no? Oh my gosh."
Pretty sure you would have said the same
Probably would have
thing.
said the same thing. So, coming from somebody that can't dance whatsoever,
Oh,
Give
I
yourself
mean,
more
as
credit.
an owner, do you have to know how to dance? Do you need the ability to dance? Do you have to be good at dancing? Like,
No, you don't. You absolutely do not. And honestly, you don't even necessarily have to like love dance, so to speak. You have to more so have a passion for just wanting to be involved in the community and being part of something that's really impacting kids. Like this is not just some random thing that franchise owners can get involved with, but to the dance question, you absolutely do not need to have a dance background at all, and neither do your dance instructors. We have our own lesson plans and our own curriculum. We write our own music and our own, and we produce it. So everything is very spelled out. Honestly, I tell everybody, if you can move your body, you can teach these classes. It is very basic. It is very step by step. The music, the lyrics are actually like guiding you on like what the next move is. And it's very, very, very spelled out. And the dance instructors, it's really just having that personality. It's really just, being able to want to work with kids, and it's creative movement. It's recreational. It's an activity. It's fun. But we do that through like dance as a vehicle.
gotcha. So I know that Tippy Toes doesn't require any brick and mortar, so it's not like a typical studio. This is definitely a different model for dance. So how does that all work? Like, even kind of go into not just the lessons, but the recitals.
Yep. Yeah. So like you said, we go into schools and daycares and we use their facilities to hold these classes. So you don't have to worry about the build out. You don't have to worry about rent every month. So we have very low month over month expenses because we don't have these things. We ultimately have payroll as our expense. That's the majority of our expenses. But so with that, in comparison to dance like studios, it's a different business model. It is, that's more skill specific, that's more competitive. You're going there. This is very much like we're coming to you. We're providing a convenience to get your kids moving, getting them to be more active, and something just silly to jump around and have fun. More of like an introduction. And as you age up, if you want to continue Tippy Toes, we have the curriculum for up to 12. But sometimes we see kids want to go at that point and take more of a skill specific, more competitive kind of dance at a studio. So they're very different business models in that sense. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Oh, the recitals. So
Oh, the recitals, yes. So we do. That is a benefit for Tippy Toes that you don't see in a lot of, we don't have like a ton of competition from another like mobile dance. There are some out there more like local mom and pop that are doing these, but a lot of times they don't offer dance recitals. So a lot of times the parents don't know or get to see what it is that their kids are doing during the class. But so this is the dance recitals. We hold them twice a year. We have costumes, you can opt in if you don't want your kid to do it. They don't have to. Again, this is more so to be fun, not making kids feel the pressure. So if they do it, it's the cutest thing, and the parents get to see what they've been working on in class, and it's just fun.
We've been to several of those ourselves.
In fact, we have
Yeah.
pictures. I should share them with you.
Oh, good.
It's adorable.
And I will say too, another really nice thing about the Tippi Toes recitals, we call ourselves the home of the 30-minute recital. So a lot of times I'm sure parents go and they get to see their child on stage for 10 minutes, but they're sitting there for 4 or 5 hours. Well, what we do is we kind of like cycle out. So like we'll do a 30-minute recital with one group, and then the next group will come in and do a 30-minute, and then the next group. So.
And I will attest, just from being a working mother, and obviously we both work, not having to leave work, get her ready, take her to dance, things like that. It was
very convenient.
Very convenient.
Yeah.
But in regards to the competition in this space, not so much dance, but there's other industries, so like soccer and just different sports. How do you get potential owners into these venues with all the other options that could be already in there?
We actually look for places that have these other youth enrichment programs there, because schools and daycares, there's nothing in the dance category, so they look at it and they say, okay, well, this is just another activity that we can offer on top of soccer or swimming or basketball or whatever the case may be. So if those youth enrichment options are already available at that location, we already see it as like a green light to come and offer Tippi Toes classes as well. So we actually target those places first, because we know that there's a good chance of us being able, they accept youth enrichment, and there's not really other like dance category ones.
Okay.
And do you guys help with making that contact with the schools and daycares?
Yeah, so we do an extensive training, like in-person training with the franchise owners. So we have them come to our corporate location, and we will take them into schools and daycares and show them how to have these conversations and go like how to properly do this, what to say, what not to say. So we take them through an actual training, but as far as us making that initial contact for them, we don't do that. But we will help you along the way, like every step of the way. Like if you run into situational things where you don't know how to handle it, we've been doing this for 25 years. We have run into every kind of situation there is. So we can help you every step of the way, but ultimately you are the one that needs to build that relationship and maintain it. I'm
sorry, don't you have national contracts with some of the big?
Yes.
Who are those with?
We do. We have one with Ivy Brook Academy and one with New Horizons. We're also in a lot of Goddards and Primroses nationally. We don't necessarily have like exclusive partnerships with them like we do with Ivy Brook and New Horizons, but you can go to a Goddard or a Primrose and, let them know, like, you can reach out to other owners. We offer, like, those are a lot of our best classes, so we have a great track record with those places.
Awesome.
And then what about in terms of finding instructors? Do you guys help with that? If not, where does an owner, find these folks?
Yes. So we will train you and guide you on who you're looking for, how to do it. We've even gone as far as helping you with the initial interview, but we'll give you interview questions. We'll give you job descriptions, all of those things. The best place and the most success that franchise owners find or use to find their dance instructors, Indeed platforms, Facebook groups. That's where we see the most success, but our team will help you with those initial interview process. But much like the daycares and the facilities that you're going to, you're the one that is managing and running your business. So you need to keep those relationships. Like, you need to know that you will be able to connect with your team. It's not us that's going to be dealing with them every day. So we'll help you, we'll guide you, we'll give you all of the tools that you need on how to interview and what to do. But ultimately you need to find your team.
Sure,
That makes sense. Yeah. All right, well, give us an average day for an instructor, how many schools do they go to in a day? How long are the sessions?
Yeah. So number one, first and foremost, it depends on their availability. If we have an instructor that has full availability throughout the week, we will put them on as many classes as we possibly can. What we try to do though is that as classes fill up at one location, about 12 kids in that class, then we'll break it off and make a second class back to back. So one starts at 9 a.m., one starts at 10 a.m., so that dance instructor can just stay there at that location. Now, let's say they have more time in the day and there's another location that has another 2 classes back to back. Well, then they would potentially drive to that second location. But let's say you have a dance instructor that only is available on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Well, then you're going to try to do whatever you can to fill them up as much as you can on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But they will be teaching those same classes every week at that specific location because the kids get used to those instructors, and you want them to see the same person. They familiar, they're comfortable, builds confidence. So we tend to have the same instructor at each place every week.
So how many instructors would a new owner start with? And I know that depends obviously on the number of venues, but give me an idea of just how many they'd need to hire.
Yeah, it's always that question, like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? But I will say in this situation, you probably, before you start going and getting into schools and daycares, you probably want to hire about 2 instructors and get them trained before then, because it happens quickly. Like you could go to a daycare, ask to start classes, and they'll say to you, can you start tomorrow? So if they say that to you, you need to be ready to start tomorrow.
I keep
So
looking at him because when we first started talking to you several months ago, I told him we have to buy one.
In full disclosure, she says that about a lot of brands. So
anyway, go ahead.
But you meant it with Tippi Toes.
Exactly.
oh, she means it with all of them.
That is
All right.
so funny. You sound just like me. I'm like, oh my goodness. But yeah, so yeah, you could go somewhere and they could say, can you start tomorrow? And for us, that's great. But if you don't have anybody ready to go tomorrow, then you're kind of in a little bit of a pickle. So it's just setting those expectations with those first couple hires from the very beginning, letting them know, listen, guys, we are a new business in the area. We are going to grow fast, but just kind of bear with us until we get you into some of these classes, and then you're going to fill up quick. And then as those instructors fill up and don't have as much availability anymore because they're teaching classes, now you're going to start continuing to hire more people. Now, it's not like a month-long program to try to hire a new instructor and get them trained. It's pretty quick, but the longest part of it is their background check, honestly, coming back. So, but they can get trained pretty quickly. And so, it's not as heavy as a burden, if somebody were to leave, to find and get somebody trained quickly. Now, what they do, the instructors, is we have an internal it's called Backstage. So a platform that we use that houses all of the curriculum, all of the lesson plans, videos, descriptions, what to say in between this song and that song, and what props to have, all these things. And the dance instructor will go in every month into their login, use their credentials to log in and learn each month's lesson plan. So it's not like you as the owner need to spend hours teaching them the dances. The videos are already made for them to watch and learn.
That's fantastic. Now, kind of going back to that just a second, like, do you experience a lot of turnover with these instructors?
I mean, we do, I'd say, pretty normal though to everybody else. I would have to say, I don't think that it's exclusive to Tippi Toes what we see. I think it's very standard compared to what most businesses see. You have to keep in mind, we're hiring a lot of part-time people looking for flexible work.
Sure.
So if they go off to college, then, that might be something where we have to consider that they're going to be gone in the fall. or if they get a job somewhere that they're moving away or whatever the case may be. Those things happen. But the biggest part of that is that, and I know it's always such a toss up. Like you could hire somebody that you think is going to be so amazing and just stay with you forever, and then they end up leaving. But it really is important as the franchise owner or your manager, if they're doing the hiring, to really, really make sure that you're doing your best, not to just hire, but to hire the right people.
Right.
And setting that expectation with them from the beginning, like, hey guys, you know what kind of position you're walking into, right? That you're dealing with kids. So you need to show up for the kids. And if that's not something that you want to do or are ready to do, then let's maybe re-examine or look at this again down the road when you are ready for those things. So just setting those expectations from the beginning.
Makes sense. Then what about territories? How do you define a territory? Is it based on population or is it based upon the number of schools and daycares?
Yeah, so when we are talking about a Tippi Toes territory, we are basing it on total population, not total kids, total population. And that is a 300,000 total population size. But everybody's questions are always follow up with that. Well, what makes it actually viable? So we're looking at demographics such as average household income, how many kids between the ages of 1 and 12 are in those zip codes, and then how many referral sources. So how many schools, daycares, churches, things like that are in each of those zip codes that make up that 300,000 population.
Okay. And then who's covering the cost of the classes? Is it the daycare? Is it the schools, or are payments coming directly from the parents?
So the payment comes directly from the parents to Tippi Toes. So the parents pay Tippi Toes directly. There are some cases where the school or the daycare wants to handle it, or they want to pay Tippi Toes one big lump sum for everybody at that location to take the class. That is not always like, if a school wants to handle the enrollment, that's not the most ideal situation. It just, from an operational perspective, there's like, we send the kids when they register enrollment packages that has like t-shirts and things in it and things like that. So from an operational perspective, it just makes things a little bit like convoluted or difficult for us. So we try to stay away from that as much as possible. And we don't get that a lot. Typically, I mean, part of the nice, convenient thing about Tippi Toes is that we're not a burden on the school or the daycare. We're not adding extra work for them. So we kind of pitch it that way to them, like, hey, like, let us handle that. So you don't have to worry about it. Like,
Sure.
they'll sign up, register, pay, communicate everything through us. You don't have to worry about that.
Well, and if anything, you're taking some burden off of them. You're taking, 12 kids at a time out of their hair for, 30 minutes? How long are the classes? An hour?
45-minute classes. But with starting the class and things like that, it comes to be about an hour, but the actual dance time is 45 minutes. And so you're absolutely right with that. You're relieving the daycare directors and instructors and school directors and teachers of that time, of having those kids with them. So
what happens if all but maybe 1 or 2 kids, their parents don't want to sign them up? These kids are being left out. Does that ever happen? How do you address that?
Yes, it does happen. And typically, like, what we will do is we'll encourage the dance instructors, if they see a kid that really wants to try the Tippi Toes class, pull them into the class for the day. Let them just take the class. This is about building confidence for kids and giving kids a fun platform in a world that, is so crazy and hectic and competitive for them already. So we'll encourage the instructors, like, if that happens, like, first and foremost, let maybe the school director or daycare director know of that. Let us know from the franchise owner level, let us know. And let us kind of address that in the way that we see most fit. But if it's a financial thing, for the parent that they want their kid to take it and their kid wants to take it, but they just can't financially afford it, and we talk to the school director about this. If it's somebody that they think like this would be great for, we can offer them like a scholarship where they can take the class for free. And we typically try to offer that, for like one kid at each location, like a scholarship for one kid at each location.
Okay, love that.
And then talk to us a little bit about your ideal franchisee. What does he or she look like? Are most of your franchisees women? Are there a bunch of men that are jumping into this?
Yep. So when you talk about the ideal franchisee, it is absolutely somebody who can build relationships, who wants to be involved in their community, who wants to impact kids. And that is the most important thing. The numbers and the money will come. It will come, but we cannot bring people in that just want to buy a business that they're not necessarily passionate about. The people that are successful in this business are the ones that truly care about what it is that we do, whether that's a male or a female. Now, what I
You
will
have
say is that
male
yep, absolutely. We have male franchise owners. What we see mostly, absolutely, are female franchise owners, where even if we see a husband-wife duo where they're both doing it together and the wife is more so the person that's going to the schools and the daycares and building those relationships, and the husband's doing a lot of the back end operational stuff. But so we do primarily see female franchise owners, to answer your question, Matt, but I will say if it is a male person, if it is a male candidate, I hope he's a person. If he's a male candidate, it needs to be somebody that you can see that can connect with like daycare directors, school directors, and that has a passion for what it is that we do.
Okay.
And then talk to us a little bit about, do you have to be a full-time active operator? Can you do this passively? I'm assuming you can do it somewhat passively since you own a territory in, what'd you say, Pennsylvania, but
Yep.
you live down in Florida. So I guess what's the role if you do go passively? What is the role of the owner?
Yes. I love this question because I'm walking proof that you can do more of an executive model with this business. What I will say about that though, and I feel this way about business in general, is that what you put into your business is exactly what you're going to get out of it. So I also feel that, nobody's going to treat your business the way that you're going to treat your business. So I hired a manager for my location from the very beginning. And other franchise owners have done the same, and you can absolutely be successful with that model. What I will say though, and what we tend to like the most and where we see the quickest ramp up, is with the owner operator model to start out. Get to know your business, live and breathe it, connect with your staff. Let them respect you for the fact that you know what they're going up against. You know what they're dealing with. And then once you get to maybe like 150 kids enrolled, you're going to feel 150 kids enrolled, from an admin perspective, answering emails. Then maybe hire a manager or a part-time admin or somebody to help you with the sales side of it. So those roles are available. Those duties and responsibilities are available to hire out. And you can do it from the beginning if you have a full-time job, but just know, that the ramp up is going to look a little bit different for you compared to somebody who is operating their business from the very beginning themselves, especially from a startup cost perspective. If you're hiring a manager from the beginning, obviously you're going to have more expenses in the beginning to pay your manager that somebody that doesn't hire a manager from the beginning will have. So it's doable. It's been done. It can be done, but it just looks a little bit different.
Sure.
So on your website, it mentions that you can earn twice the investment in a year at 30 hours per week. Is that in the FDD? And tell me, just go into that a little bit if you don't mind.
Sure. So we do show an average 39.6% net profit margin in our FDD. We are refiling in 2 days, so can't necessarily disclose those numbers yet, but really excited about them. I will say that our current FDD shows fantastic returns, and for the low startup, for that low initial investment, you can get your money back pretty quickly based off of what we see from a net average. And yeah, and that net average was going into 2022 to give you some kind of idea of what that looked like. Schools were still, some of them were still closed from COVID. I hate that word. But so I just like, it's like if you drop your voice a little bit when you say it, maybe you just didn't say
Doesn't
it.
have the same
Doesn't
effect.
But so, you know, I mean, and if they were open, there were some pretty strict rules and guidelines as far as letting people from the outside come in. So, yeah, those numbers were going into 2022.
And so what is the total investment for a single location?
Yep. So altogether, all in, including your franchise fee from a high perspective, you're probably looking around like $84,000.
Wow. Okay. And then I guess what is the average time from signing a franchise agreement until they're out doing classes?
It is quick. It is quick. And I think some people are kind of shocked when I tell them like, okay, this is what you're looking at.
Gotta be ready to go.
So what's that?
Got to be ready to go.
Got to be ready to go. So you come to confirmation day, you decide to become a franchise owner. We would have you start immediately with a whole checklist of like A, B, C, D, like this is everything you need to do to get started, to get onboarded, like from the technical side of things, the point of sale system, onboarding with all of that stuff, you know, the not so fun part of starting a business. And then literally the next month, so anywhere from like 3 to 4 weeks later, you are back in Phoenix in person, doing your in-person training with them, which will take you into schools and daycares, and it's a very extensive as far as like what to say to these directors, what not to say, things like that. As soon as you complete that in-person training, you can start operating your business. A lot of people will come to training with a manager already hired, and they'll bring their manager with them. Or maybe even some dance instructors already hired, so that whenever you are done with your training, you can hit the ground running with sales and you already have some dance instructors ready to go. So it can happen within like a month.
A follow up to that training part. So as you onboard new dance instructors, I'm assuming that they can just watch the videos that you guys provide for the curriculum, or do they have to be sent to Phoenix to be trained as well?
Nope, they do not need to be sent anywhere. We can train them ourselves from the local level. But the nice thing that Tippi Toes does is, because I mean, you're still trying to manage like a bunch of 2-year-olds in a class and keeping them, you know, together, you know, so that whole classroom management side of thing is still part of this. So Tippi Toes corporate will do monthly like training calls with all of the dance instructors across the nation on classroom management and help with that. And the owners are doing it themselves too with their instructors, but it's a nice little thing to have corporate also provide that for all of the staff members at Tippi Toes. But from like the dance perspective, you just kind of do like an initial orientation with them, get them ready and onboarded. Let the big part about this is that they understand who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And that is a big part of the training from the franchise owner, is really, really hitting home on the why behind it, because that is what will really make them feel connected to the brand. And so, but from like the dancing side of things, that's they log in and they learn the dances.
Okay. Well, you've shared some really great stories with us internally, but what's your favorite success story? Tell me something that, I don't know, that just calls out to you.
Yeah. Honestly, there are so many. And I'm not just saying that I love, but one thing that I love about Tippi Toes, and I could say this generally speaking, but from a success story perspective, we have several franchise owners who started as dance instructors and then became franchise owners. One pair in particular started as dance instructors, then managers, and their sisters, and they now own 3 territories, and they are our top performer, and they are just kicking butt, taking numbers, and I mean, they are completely like everything Tippy Toes. I think one of them even has a Tippy Toes tattoo, I think. But
Hilarious.
That's
but
dedication.
yeah, but I mean, it just goes to show like how impactful the brand really is. I mean, they've been franchise owners for 11 years now, and they're just really doing well. And to know that Tippy Toes, started off as just like a part-time thing for them and now is their livelihood, um, to me just speaks volumes about the brand and what it does. So
Now, I don't know if you have this disclosed in your FDD and whether or not you can share, but with them being top performers, how many kids are enrolled in their program?
So
You know?
what's in the FDD is not their number. Theirs is more. But what's in the current FDD, this will look different in a couple of days here, but what's in the current FDD from a high was 497 kids enrolled.
Wow, okay. And I don't know if we touched on this or not, average price per student?
So it depends on your market. We see anywhere from $65 a month all the way up to $98 a month, but we see the average around like 75.
Okay.
Okay. And tell us how many are operating, and what do you think the growth looks like this year?
As of today, we have 71 territories.
Okay.
And I believe that makes 54 franchise owners. And the only ones that are not operating are the ones where people purchased multiple territories recently and they're starting on their first before they start to develop their second or their third or whatever.
Okay. We've covered a lot, but is there anything that you feel like we missed that would be really important for someone to know?
Yeah, I think just one last thing that I always like, I think it's one of those things that it's like not necessarily about the business, but just really speaks to who we are and who Sarah Noose is. I mean, she is somebody who will do whatever it takes to make sure that her franchise owners are successful, just because she is just like, I always joke about this. I'm like, I know that I'm a good person, but Sarah Noose makes me feel like I could be better. Like,
Oh,
she's just such an amazing human being on so many levels. And one of the things that she does is she's gone to several different countries now with World Help. Recently went to Guatemala, and every year is building a house in one of these countries with World Help, for a family in need. And so the most recent was in Guatemala last year. I'm not sure where they're planning on going this year, but
oh,
it's something that I just, we give back to the community so much in our local territories every day with Tippy Toes, but Tippy Toes goes further than that. She always says like dance has no language barrier. And like we get there and we teach classes, or we have Tippy Toes classes for these kids in like Guatemala, and everybody's still just doing it, regardless if they know what we're saying or not, or look the same or not. I think it's a beautiful thing that they do that. So.
I love that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking this time today. Learned some things. I'm sure you were taking notes. So
And I think that you would be a perfect Tippy Toes instructor.
I think you should dress up as Tippy the turtle, our mascot.
Now I can do that.
And I'm pretty sure we have a teddy bear or something that's called Tippy something.
We definitely do.
Yeah.
Stuffed animal.
I was trying to find a picture of our daughter's recital, but I'll have to keep looking. But regardless, we really, really appreciate it.
Me too.
Good luck and best of everything for your new location. Keep us posted, okay?
I
Yes.
will. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was so much fun. So thank you.
Absolutely. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.